Recorded live.
Welcome to Freedom Fighters for America Radio. This is another Take Back America series. I'm Independence, your host. And now we'll start it off with the theme song from the Avengers. Hi, this is Take Back America series, and I'm Independence, and what we're going to discuss today is illegal human experimentation. There are many people in this country, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, that are literally implanted or experimented on against their will by members of organized crime, condoned by the government. This work is also part of the medical industry's devices that they test and that they torture individuals with. And we're going to go into some of that. First, I'd like to start out by reading the government's admission of this activity happening, so you really get an idea that what I'm stating here is not something that I dreamed up. This is something that does exist. It has existed for many years. The government still denies that it exists, although it has been brought out back in the late 1970s with the advent of the MK Ultra Church Committee hearings, which we'll discuss in length. But what I'd like to do now is read an introduction to S-193, which was introduced by Senator at the time, John Glenn, at the 105th Congress in 1997, and it was the Human Research Subject Protection Act. Okay, Mr. Glenn, one of the only senators ever to get on the floor of the Congress to discuss these issues. And it really is something that, most people, and even the senators and our politicians, don't want to face, although they know this exists, and they have received many letters from many victims about this, even after MK Ultra. This problem still exists to this day and goes on continuously, and it is run out of the Department of Justice and the military and other private entities, as well as organized crime. So I'm going to start by reading the letter Senator John Glenn produced. This is part of his speech, okay? Madam President, if I approached any senator here and I said, you did not know it, but the last time they went to the doctor or went to the hospital, your wife or your husband or your daughter or your son became the subject of a medical experiment that they were not even told about. They were given medicine, they were given pills, they were given radiation, they were given something, and were not even told about this. We're not informed about it, yet they are under some kind of experimental research that might possibly do them harm. Maybe some good will come out of it, but maybe it will do them harm also. But they do not know about it. People would laugh at that and say, that is ridiculous. That cannot possibly happen in this country. Yet that very situation is what this piece of legislation is supposed to address. So obviously he thought it was happening, and obviously this was taken very seriously by the Senator John Glenn, former astronaut. I have been in public life, and I have served this country for many years. Frankly, I do not think too many things that I see surprise me anymore about our laws and about our government. 3 years ago, though I began to learn about a gap in our legal system that does truly concern me, in 1993, the Governmental Affairs Committee began to investigate the Cold War radiation experiments. These experiments are one of the unfortunate legacies of the Cold War, when our government sponsored experiments involving radiation on our own citizens without their consent. They did not even know the experiments were being run on them. It was without their consent. One of the most infamous of these experiments took place in my own state of Ohio, when scores of patients at the University of Cincinnati were subject to large doses of radiation during experimental treatments without their consent, without their informed consent. During the course of this investigation, I began to ask the question, what protections are in place to prevent such abuses from happening again? What law prohibits experimenting on people without their informed consent? What I found when I looked into it is there is no law on the books requiring that informed consent be obtained. More important, I believe there is a need for such a law, as there continue to be cases where this basic right, I do view it as a basic right, is abused. As I started out, I would like to put this on a personal level for every one of my colleagues. You think about your own family, your own son, your own daughter, or grandchildren, who might be, the next time they go to a doctor, the subject of some medical experiment that they are not even told about. I do not think there can be many things more un-American than that. And take it from a victim who's speaking right now, there is nothing more un-American than being a research subject without your consent and being tortured by it. With the introduction of this bill today, I hope to begin the process of correcting some serious gaps in our legal system. I want to make clear right now, I am not seeking to bring medical research to a screeching halt. Please do not anybody at the National Institute of Health, which is a criminal organization in itself, that's my opinion, or anybody doing research throughout this country think we are trying to stop that. We are not. That is not my intent and not the intent of this bill. This country has the very finest healthcare system in the world. Apparently he's not around today to see it. In part because of basic research. In fact, in large part because we have put more effort, more resources, more of our treasure into health research than any other nation in this world. In fact, I believe most people are not opposed to participating themselves in scientific research if they are told about the pros and the cons. That is the goal of this legislation, to make sure that people have the appropriate information to make an informed choice about their medical treatment. What he did not understand was people were literally and are literally being dragged in off the streets, or they're being diagnosed mentally ill, and people are taking advantage of those false diagnoses and making this happen, operating on people, and then putting them back out on the street and torturing them remotely or very close by, and no one will believe what that person states. And they will make it impossible for you to get any kind of medical verification of what happens to you, because this is part of the program too. But to read on, everyone listening here today probably has heard about the Nuremberg Code. That is the list of 10 ethical research principles which were produced as part of the judgment against Nazi physicians who engaged in truly heinous medical experiments during World War II. The first principle of the Nuremberg Code states that the voluntary consent of the human subject of research is absolutely essential. Unfortunately, as we look back through our history, since the late 1940s, it appears that researchers in America may not have taken all that Nuremberg lesson completely to heart. And that comment's an understatement. I asked my colleagues what the following names might have in common: Salmonide, Tuskegee, and Willowbrook. Well, the answer is that these are all sad examples of unethical research conducted in the United States.